Welcome to Two Bit SoCon, the first episode of 2024 for us. We skipped there around the holidays and there are no games. We are back. Got a really cool episode today. First, though, Matt, how you doing?
I'm good. We planned an exciting episode today. I like it. We're switching it up a bit.
Yeah, going a little bit away from which there hasn't been a ton of games to analyze, but we're gonna do a couple segments here today. We're gonna do a draft, like a fantasy draft type thing of our, midway through conference, our teams. We're gonna do 5 players and a 6-man. Then we're gonna do New Year's resolutions for every team. What we think teams need to improve on, keep doing. If you don't know what a New Year's resolution is, I don't know what to tell you. Then we're going to talk about a few games and then upcoming conference play here. But first, let's start off with our draft. Matt St. Charles' idea here. We're going to do a snake draft. Do you want the first pick, or you want me to have first pick?
I think I want to take the first pick here. I'm gonna be a little selfish. I'm gonna take it.
I should have got some I should have got that on here. I didn't.
Yeah.
But Matt, and if you don't know, it's like we're doing like a fantasy draft. Didn't explain this well. We're gonna do a starting 5 and a 6th man. Basically, this is just like your all-star team here. So, Matt, your first pick. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the obvious choice here. I'm gonna go with Vontaris Woolbright from Western Carolina. He's he was my pick early in the year to win Conference Player of the Year. His if we're thinking in fantasy terms, his usage rate has got to be crazy. I mean, he's touching the ball in basically every possession. I think you said a few weeks ago that they kind of play like Luka Doncic does with Dallas. He's just like every possession ends with him making a play of some kind. So I'm gonna go with Woolbright.
Yeah, that's the usage rate is. I was earlier trying to figure out if I could find that somewhere.
I was looking for it too.
Because
it's got to be off the charts.
Western later, and I was thinking that like that man is Luka there for Western. So all right, I got 2 picks. I'm going to take Mikal Brown-Jones with my first pick, which is insane for me to think about based off of my thoughts preseason. But I think he fits in because this team is going to be the greatest team in SoCon history. He fits in every offense, dude. Like, he's exactly what you want. He can defend. He can shoot, which I didn't even realize, I guess, as well as he has shot it this year. He can score. And he's playing like a legit 1A option. So he's going to be at my 5. I'm going to take him first. And I say my 5. Team's going to be positionless, so we actually don't care that much. Let me mark off Woolbright off my draft board here. Then, oh, Lord.
This is a tough spot here.
I think I'm going to take Marcus Foster. And again, I like fit. Marcus Foster fits into every single team. A wing that can defend, can shoot it, can play off ball if he needs to, can play on ball if he needs to, can be a connector if he needs to. That's my second pick. He'll play the 3-4. We'll see how my draft goes. But that's my pick. So I got MBJ and Marcus Foster, and you're on the clock again.
All right. So there's 2 obvious ones that have both missed some time, but I think I'm going to take flyers on both of them. The first one, Jermaine Marshall, your preseason Conference Player of the Year. He's just, you can't say enough about the guy if you're Samford. He's missed some time this year with the wrist, but I think he's starting to get back into the fold, and he'll fully be back, once SoCon play starts. They get chat on Wednesday, so I think he'll be ready to go. So I'm going to take him, and then I'm going to go with JP Pegues at my point guard, the man, the Furman's man that they missed so dearly last week. That's my Damian Lillard. Yeah, I'm going to go with him.
I'm glad you took him because this is what I'm going to do now. I was wanting that because, and I can't even think of who my next pick is, but I'm taking Trey Bonham. Give me Trey Bonham. Yep. He is so freaking good, dude. I severely underrated the impact he would have, and obviously, they lost the other day to Auburn by so much, but honestly,
I think you just earned Trey Bonham back as a fan.
Yeah,
he wasn't a fan of yours
earlier this year. yeah. No, Trey Bonham, he's going to be my one, maybe two. Can get to the rack. Maybe he needs to get better at getting other people involved, but we don't care. He's going to score. That's all I need. So I got a one. I'm gonna shock some people here, maybe. And maybe this is recency bias. No, actually, no. Give me Keyshawn Langley. I almost didn't take Keyshawn Langley. Give me that. Oh my goodness, that 1-2 offensively and defensively. I'm gonna take Keyshawn Langley. So I'm sitting with my guard room all fixed up, and then Marcus Foster and MBJ. We might blow your team out. I'm just being honest. We're gonna clamp up and get buckets. So
my team's gonna get stops. I'm gonna have Jermaine Marshall running around the court, beating people up. So I'm confident my guy so far. But Langley was my next guy off the board.
Yeah, I can't believe I almost skipped him over. I have him sitting here and I almost just ignored him for some reason.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm on the clock. I got 2 picks here. First one. See, I don't want to keep taking risks on guys that I haven't seen production from, like insane production from. But I'm going to go with Trey Jackson here. I think a backcourt of Pegues and Trey Jackson, they're going to get open. I'm hoping that this imaginary game happens in Cullowhee because that's where Trey Jackson can shoot the ball.
Yep.
But I think I'm going to take him. He was another guy that was in the conversation of preseason, all conference team. So I'm going to take him. Then I need a big here. Who's you taking? Who's your big? Oh, Brown Jones.
Yep.
See, I'm between the 2 chat bigs, and I'm thinking that if you have Brown Jones, that Zedek may get cooked down there. So I'm gonna go with Sam Alexis.
Okay.
I need the size to match up with Brown Jones, so I'm gonna go with Sam Alexis here.
You got little bro. I got big bro on my team.
Yeah, that's all right. We got the shooting.
Low-key, Sam Alexis is just young Brown Jones. I was thinking that the other day. Like, they're similar archetype.
You gotta stop calling the chat guys younger versions of people.
Yeah, I guess I do. That's your start. So your starting 5 right now. You got Woolbright, Jackson, Pegues, Marshall, Alexis.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to do a 6th man too here in a second. So I guess I'm taking my 5th player and my 6th man.
Yeah.
So I've got Langley and Bonham and Foster and Brown Jones. I think I'm going to go here. This is a difficult pick because there's so many guys. So I'm really looking for a 3 or a 4 here.
Right.
I'm torn between a ton of guys here. And I'm not going to take Jan Zedek. He's way too up and down. I would like him off the bench maybe, but he either goes for 25 or 0 every game.
Depends where they play. He's kind of like Trey Jackson.
I think I'm going to go Jaden Seymour from ETSU. And maybe that's recency bias. He's the SoCon player of the week this week. But he's been cooking. And defensively, he's awesome. We'll have to see about the shooting with my team, but I do have a bunch of shooters already. But I think I like that. I think I do because he's so awesome on defense. Y'all might never score against us, for being honest.
These are 2 contrasting styles of basketball we're trying to play here.
Yeah, well, I also got scorers, but we're got high level defenders too. So let me see here. The rest of my draft board. I'm gonna take a sixth man here, and this might be the hardest pick because there are so many dudes, and I'm almost. I'm really torn here. I'll talk through it. I've got Alex Williams. I love me some Alex Williams. Never skipped a rep in the gym. You know he's going to go hard. I could go I was formerly hater number one, now number one fan, Russell Jones Jr. I could go Honor Huff. But I've got defense. It's Honor Huff the offense with my style of play right now. Is that where I need to go? I don't know. I could go Kabari Peterson, Corey Tripp. Oh, I'm going to go. Man, this is tough. We're sticking with defense. I'm taking Alex Williams. Sorry about it. That's my guy. I've always been Alex Williams guy. I don't even know if that's the right pick there, but I love Alex Williams. I'm taking him.
See, that sucks because that was my next pick because
I'm proud of myself.
I needed someone to come off the bench to give Sam Alexis a break from guarding Brown Jones.
You need to check with your draft team and your scouts because there may or may not have been a leak to my camp, and I knew you were going to take him. That's why I got him.
I got a mole in the facility?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm at kind of a crossroads here. Do I go and find another big that can help guard Brown Jones down low? Or do I do a complete 180 and just find more scoring, right? So I think what I'm going to do is based off of usage rate or our theoretical usage rate, kind of what we said about Woolbright, is I'm going to go with Honor Huff. And we're just gonna go small and we're gonna shoot and we're gonna see what happens. So Honor Huff is my sixth man. Shout out.
All right. So I wrote them down here. We'll go over the teams and maybe I'll have to make a graphic or something. We'll see. Somebody's got to let us know who's winning. Yeah. Also known as why is my team running yours out of the gym? So I've got Keyshawn Langley, Trey Bonham, Marcus Foster, Jaden Seymour, Mikael Brown-Jones, off the bench, Alex Williams. You've got...
That is an elite defensive line.
That wasn't even my plan coming into it. I just somehow just
Langley and Bonham in the backcourt is crazy.
Yeah. And you've got Woolbright, Luka Doncic, JP McGee's, Trey Jackson, Jermaine Marshall, Sam Alexis, and Honor Huff off the bench. So interesting teams. That was fun doing that there. I think I'm gonna have to make a graphic or something somehow. Yeah, I'm gonna get this on the 2-minute SoCon account and have somebody tell me who.
We need a weekly tweet. So like after the two games happen, like Wednesday and Saturday or whatever, we need to tweet on Sunday and just like speculate who won.
Yeah.
Not do any of the math on it, but just be like, this guy balled.
Yeah.
Probably won.
We'll have to see. All right. Now let's move on here. We're doing New Year's resolutions. We split them up into 5 teams. We're going to alternate here. New Year's resolutions for each team. I'll go ahead. I'll start us off. I got Western Carolina, probably the presumed favorite in the SoCon right now. Them or UNCG is probably through non-conference play has done the most. I got them. And my New Year's resolution for Western Carolina is to get others involved, which is funny after we've talked about all of this.
That is fitting, yeah.
Vontarius Woolbright has been – he's probably in the running for mid-major player of the year so far. He's putting up historic numbers. I mean, really and truly can get a triple-double any night, and it's not surprising. But from watching them, I think their offense gets stagnant at times because it's clear that they want the ball in his hands every single possession. And while that's not a bad thing, especially late in games, I love late game just going to him and letting him work. Getting him in the mid post, letting him ISO, get fouled, score. He's so elite at that. But doing that for all 40 minutes of the game, like they do sometimes, I think is overdoing it. And also, in part, I think Trey Jackson, like we've both talked about, and you took him in a thing when he's having really a down year so far this year. I think he is just getting started at getting back on track. And I think part of the reason why he struggled so much is because nothing's ran for him. And with a shooter like that, you like running him off sets and stuff like that to get him going. And he's been a guy who I feel like's been pressing a little bit, taking some bad shots at times. And that's maybe partially because of how their offensive style is. But I really think he's the main one. When I say get others involved, you got to make, and he doesn't have to be even a 1B option to Woolbright if you don't want him to be, but he's got to become a real number 2. And I think that's more of a coaching thing than it is a, on him thing. Not that he can shoot better, obviously, but let's design more plays for him to get good shots rather than letting him take so many bad shots. So that's my explanation there. We'll go to you. You can do whoever you want first there.
Yeah, I just want to add to that real quick. I love that resolution for them because what we saw with Chattanooga last year, their whole identity was going through Jake Stevens. And then when Stevens went down, they didn't really know who they were. So getting others involved is so important for mid-major teams like that. First team I'm going to go with here is UNC Greensboro. And my resolution for them is to find some bench scoring, find some punch off the bench. They've only got 3 double-digit scorers so far this season. The Langleys and Brown Jones have been good, and Atwell's had his games. But if one of those guys is off, they struggle to score the ball. And I know they were down Brown Jones against Texas, but 37 points is
insane. I couldn't believe that result.
Yeah. I know it's Texas, but 37 points is brutal. So if they can find some kind of punch off the bench, if one of those guys isn't going, somebody else has to pick up the slack for them.
Nice. All right. I've got Furman. This may seem too simple, but I really think it's the truth. And we'll talk about Furman and the horrible loss they had the other day here in a little bit. But Furman, get healthy.
Yep.
And I know that sounds simple, but I don't feel like you can, in a good heart, you can't really make a determination of what Furman is so far this year, in my opinion, because they've had so many guys in and out. Tough schedule. You missed Alex Williams early in the year, then you missed Marcus Foster for a good bit. Now you're missing Pegues. You've missed him at times. It's just like there are 3 guys. I think those are the 3 guys for them. And Williams is probably a step below the other 2, but who knows when they all play because he's had a big year so far. I just can't make a fair determination of what they are and what they're going to be when they've been so hurt this year and so many guys going in and out. And we'll talk later about just the loss and everything. And maybe this is a preview to it for me because I'm not super worried about them in general. But my resolution is get healthy. I don't know what they got to do to get healthy, but don't put guys out there before they're not ready. That's the only thing I want. So going into conference play, I still believe in Furman if they can get healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my next resolution is for Chattanooga here. And it's sort of along the same lines. They just haven't been completely right. So my resolution for them is to find consistency. They had so many new faces coming into the year. They were operating under the assumption that they wouldn't have Bonham at all. So, you get Miles Che going and all that kind of stuff. And then 10 games into the year, you throw Bonham into it. This team doesn't feel like it's found itself yet. You can tell that when they are going, they can play a fun brand of basketball and they can be competitive, but it's kind of like Furman. It's hard to determine what this team is so far. The inexperience shows for them sometimes. So you really want to see them get into a groove with their full roster. And it's not really fun to go play Auburn in your last out of conference game and get ran out of the gym. That doesn't give you a lot of confidence. So they just need to find some kind of groove heading into conference play.
Yeah, that Auburn game was tough. I don't even know how I watched. I watched a bunch of it just because there was nothing on TV. Except I'm already checked out of football. Titans fan here. It's brutal watching them every week. So I was watching that game, and it was hard. It was just some bad basketball for them. All right, I got Wofford here. My resolution for Wofford. This may disappoint people, but it's more for we're still going to be in the calendar year of 24. It is to keep everyone on campus. And that's not to say I don't think Wofford can do anything this year, because I do. I think they may end up surprising people. I think they could beat some of those top teams in the SoCon, but I don't confidently feel that they're gonna do anything in the long run, like go on any run or be a top 3 seed. I'd love to be wrong because I like Dwight Perry and I like those guys that stayed there with him. It is like, I don't know, if they played well, it'd be a pretty good feel-good story there. But from what I know, and I should have looked this up, but I don't think they're losing anyone this offseason. So that is my resolution, especially in the transfer portal era. Keep everyone on campus, because when you get guys on campus and they stay there, they tend to progress and get better and better with more opportunity. Think Furman's been posting awesome stuff about like Pegues, his jump, and Foster, his jump, Alex Williams, his jump. Think Jaden Seymour, ETSU, the jump he's made, Sam Alexis at Chattanooga. When you have your guys there and they stay, a lot of times, especially when they show flashes like guys like Corey Tripp or Dylan Bailey or, Kyler Filovich have shown that they can be good players, and I think they can make another jump next year. So my resolution for them is to keep everyone on campus. If they can keep this group there, bring in another recruiting class, maybe add a couple transfers, they can legitimately be a contender next year, depending on how the guys develop. So that's mine for them.
Mm-hmm. Next team I'm going to go with here is Samford, another one of our contenders, and a lot of Samford fans may know what's coming if they've listened to the podcast. Shorten the rotation. Yep. You've got to have your best guys on the floor as much as possible. They have 11 guys playing 10-plus minutes a game, which is insane. With Marshall getting fully back, I understand it with Marshall out because you got to find who can fill that role. But Marshall is back. He's getting back into form. I don't think you can sustain a whole season rotating 11 guys. Like, I know that's their style, but you have to have your best guys on the floor for consistent minutes every game. So they need to shorten their rotation.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that. Well, obviously, we've talked about that a lot.
Much. We've talked about it so much.
All right, I've got the Citadel. I gave myself the military schools. I don't know if I cursed myself there by giving myself that, but whatever. I've got the Citadel, and I went with keep the faith and Ed Conroy, which Ed Conroy's not going anywhere, so I don't think that's not as much. But I think it's keep the faith. And the reason I say that is I'm not sure they're going to do anything in conference play, partially because those top 7 teams look really good this year. We joked about it last episode about SoCon isn't good and stuff, but legitimately, I've always known all year that those top 5 were going to be good, but ETSU and Wofford look good as well. And we'll talk about ETSU later on this episode. But I think, in saying that though, I think the Citadel is doing everything right. And it's obviously a really tough job. Not as tough as VMI in my opinion, but it's still a tough job, and it's hard to get people to buy in, and they can take some transfers because they have a graduate program. So that's part of why it's easier. But I think they're doing everything right, and they've got solid guys in there to build on. I think they lose Mawara Brown and Elijah Morgan this offseason, which sucks, but they've still got some good players there. They got to keep the faith, and those players have got to know It's a process. Let's trust the process here because I think it's going to be tough sledding come conference play here. I guess we're going to release this on Wednesday, so tomorrow. It's going to be tough sledding, and I want them to realize that it's a process, and let's keep the faith over this next, this into the year and build on that into the next one.
My next school is one we're going to talk about more in depth later, but ETSU, their New Year's resolution is to score the ball more efficiently. They've found something defensively, and I think Jaden Seymour is kind of spearheading that. He's a very high-level defender. They're shooting 39% from the field and 30% from three. Both are the lowest in the SoCon. Their defense is giving up 67 points a game on 40% from the field and 29% from three. So if the offense can pick it up, they can start to win some games, but 46% effective field goal percentage is not going to get it done, especially in the SoCon. So they need to find a way to score the ball more efficiently and more often.
I agree. I got VMI here. VMI, I've got one word for your resolution, and that's pray. Pray, God, can you please end the transfer portal, or please bless us with a freshman that was in a military family that wants to stay here and is a good basketball player, or please, God, let us keep some freshmen. It's impossible. I really feel for them, and they lost. I'm totally blanking on the name now. They just lost their second leading scorer the other day, and I had a whole thing about it. And I've said in the offseason, I think eventually they may have to drop a division. And some people didn't like that take, but they may not win a D1 game this year. And in all honesty, I don't think they're going to. I don't think maybe they get Mercer. I think the Citadel's too disciplined. I think they're more talented, and I think Ed Conroy and those players are pretty disciplined. Where they lack a little bit of talent compared to other teams, I don't think they strike me as a team that's going to have a big lull and lose a game like that. But man, they're VMI. I really feel for them, and I feel for Andrew Wilson. And I know this sounds all gloom and doom here, but it kind of is. It's tough in this era, especially at mid majors. It's tough to succeed. You've got to hit on underrated freshmen. You've got to hit on transfers, and at a school at VMI where you've got half of the recruiting process of players is not available to you. They can't take transfers. So right. They've got to hit on freshmen that no one else sees, because the guys, they're not winning recruiting battles unless it's over a D2 school and it's just guys that want to go D1. Guys are using that school to get film against D1 players so they can go where they want to go.
Like a JUCO, right?
Yeah, it's really sad that that's what it's become. But it's not like that's the norm necessarily. It really is just kind of VMI's the ones that deal with that. So for them, pray and maybe start to accept that it may be, an impossible situation, which isn't your fault necessarily. So,
yeah, poor VMI.
it is sad.
Yeah, my last one is Mercer, and their resolution is to find a second high-scoring guy. We've got McCreary, who we've talked about kind of empty numbers with, averaging 16 points a game, and he's their only guy above in double digits this year. So they're just not getting it done offensively. Carmody is having a pretty good season. He's not scoring at a high volume, but he's scoring efficiently from the field. If you can get him more involved, maybe when McCreary's not in the game, you have Carmody in the game, so you have some kind of offense, but they need to find another guy to step up in order to keep pace in the SoCon.
Nice. All right. That's all
pretty cut and dry with
yeah. I like that. So those are our resolutions. Our fun little segments there. We're gonna try to do more segments like this throughout the year instead of just
resolution for everybody listening. Also pray for VMI because they got it tough over there.
Yes, and pray for the SoCon admin to be able to have later nights. on Twitter. He pray that he or she can stay up later so they can tweet whenever.
If he doesn't tweet when VMI catches Mercer for their first D1 win,
yes,
just like, yes, VMI, I'm gonna be pretty upset with him.
Yes. All right. So moving on, we got to talk about ETSU, and that's probably, honestly, maybe the least talked about team we've talked about this year. We haven't done a lot of ETSU.
We have not covered ETSU at all.
And maybe that's partially on me. I haven't watched a ton of ETSU so far this year. I don't know why, but I have recently, and they just kind of snuck around to an 8-5 out of conference record, and had a big win the other night against East Carolina, 86-70. Now they lost to Utah State, 80-65 on the road, but Utah State is like 13-1. They're going to be in the tournament. Really good team. But yeah, they've just snuck around and found ways to win games, and are really have some big wins at East Carolina. They beat Davidson. They had some struggles early on, lost by like 34 to Butler, something like that. They had some struggles early on, but they're going to shock some people come conference play because of how they started a little slower. They are good. And Brooks Savage, it should tell you something that everyone in the world was like, this is an awesome hire whenever he was hired.
Dude knows what
he's got him in the right direction. I really like, obviously, Jaden Seymour. He is a potential, if he plays well in conference play, he could be a defensive player of the year in the conference. He's just got insane size, length, athleticism. I like Kwamari Peterson a lot. I didn't realize until recently, Kwamari Peterson won a JUCO national championship last year, which that's the real deal. If you don't, JUCO is frowned upon sometimes, and rightfully so sometimes. I mean, like, I'm in Nashville. Fall State is down the street from me. They suck. That's not a good program. There's some bad JUCOs, and like I had a buddy who played JUCO, and I would go to some games, and it would be the most like pickup hoops of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is there really a coach there? Like,
it's bad. Just dudes trying to get out. Yeah.
But those top JUCO teams are so good and full of guys that are, full of high major guys even. Like, I mean, a lot of those players go play at high majors and contribute. But Kwamari Peterson is nice. He's a good player. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, who does he remind me of? And it hit me. It's Jordan King from last year's team. And he's maybe a little bit less. He's probably like a lesser version of him. He's probably not going to put up 40 points like Jordan King can. He's probably also not going to shoot quite as inefficiently as Jordan King can at times. But he gives me flashes of that kind of player, and I like him. And then Ebi Asamoah has been – how in the world did he cracked like eight points per game his sophomore year at Delaware, and then his senior year at Delaware he averaged like 6 a game, and now he's getting 20 a bunch of times. He's averaging 15 a game, hitting tough shots. Like, I don't love his play style for just in general. It's kind of tough. He's a tough shot taker and maker sometimes, but how did he only average 6 points a game at Delaware is my question. And kudos to Brooks Savage and that staff, like finding him and being a guy that's a 15-point a game scorer. Like, there was pretty much just an average starter at Delaware, and that's a transfer up. Really, Delaware's not in as good as conferences as the SoCon. That's shout out them, and I just really want to touch on how good they've looked. I don't love their bench. They're really young on the bench, but they're going to surprise some people. Their size and length is insane, and they're going to win some games against some really good SoCon teams. And people are going to be surprised, but I'm telling you right now, it should not be surprising. Their defense is going to keep them in games. I'll let you talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, I had the same note as you. The first one is that, the ceiling for Jaden Seymour is he can be a defensive player of the year in this conference. He's so long and athletic. He can defend every position. He really has the potential to be a defense player of the year candidate. I think the reason we haven't really covered him is they're not like, they don't play, Dan Earl style of basketball. They're not like chucking up threes and running a fast pace. They just kind of slow. Right. They don't do that at all. They just kind of slowly grind it out. Like they will sit down and defend you possession after possession and punish you if you don't execute. The Eastern Carolina game, they were back and forth for the first 15 minutes, and then they string some stops together, and you look up and they're up by 10 going into the half, basically. So they're not explosive. They're not gonna go on these quick offensive spurts, but they're gonna sit down and defend you and build on their lead slowly. You can just tell these guys love to play for Brooks Savage. Like he's so active on the sideline. You see their energy pick up when his does. And then Jaden Seymour has to be the key. I mean, he's averaging 18 in his last 5 on 50% from the field. If he continues to step up and be that guy, they can certainly make some noise in SoCon. But if not, they're going to struggle to keep up offensively. But I love what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I agree. I am, and I also get it. If you watch the ETSU game or Eastern Carolina game, it's away announcers, and shout out those guys. Those guys were really prepared, did a good job.
They love the SoCon, yeah.
That's always something I appreciate is when you can tell guys have done their homework, because that doesn't in mid-major basketball, that doesn't always happen. A lot of times it's some homers that don't know a lot, or
You're saying we the whole game, yeah.
The other night, I was watching Lipscomb, Florida State, and they called Wofford an NCAA tournament team. They were like speculating that Lipscomb Belmont was a I think that's an in-state rivalry there. I'm like, that's like one of the best rivalries in mid-major hoops. They just said they said Furman, Joe Anderson. And eventually I'm going to do a SoCon transfers thing. Like, how are they doing? Guys that left, but Joe Anderson left Furman. He starts for Lipscomb, and they were talking about him, and they were like, yeah, Furman won the Big South last year. It's like, bro, come on. But I got off on a tangent there, but shout out those guys on the Eastern Carolina broadcast. They really knew what they were talking about, but they were like, man, I'm telling you what, this ETSU team is not going to finish 7th. And I agree with them. Also, when they pulled up the media poll, I don't know, or the coaches poll or media poll, whatever poll they had up there, how was Mercer picked to finish 6th? I didn't even realize that. That's ridiculous. I don't know why I guess I didn't look at it that hard, or I was too focused on the top half. That's ridiculous. Yeah. But that's just how impressive they were. And they were talking about how impressive their size was. That's a big team. And I think of a Chattanooga with small guards. They're going to give some teams like that trouble. And their defense is going to keep them in games. And like we've touched on, their offense is a struggle at times. They go on big lulls. And they're not, like we said, they're not some, 3-point chucking, we're going to get hot at the right time type of team. But I almost look at them like I look at UNCG a lot of times. Like their defense, their size, their length will keep them in games. And, UNCG's obviously, in my opinion, above them. They're not on the same caliber of team, in my opinion. But I do think they're the same type of team in that they're going to stay in games and they're going to win some games because of that defense. And I do think it's sort of an advantage. I don't think they have a 1A guy. I don't think they have a MBJ or Langley or, in years past, like a Mike Bothwell, Malachi Smith. They don't have I'll go way back, Fletcher McGee. They don't have a guy who's going to score.
Right.
You don't feel like they're going to average 20 a game and be that guy. But I feel like it's a little bit of an advantage, especially when you get into conference play and, you're having scouting reports and things of that nature. I think it's a little bit of advantage that they don't have that guy, but they also have, Peterson, Ebi Asamoah, and Seymour can all go for 20 reasonably. I mean, Seymour had 30 against Utah State and then followed it up with 24 the other night. I like that a lot. That's another thing, with Chat, I like a little bit is that they kind of have that Cedic, Alexis, Bonham, Huff. They kind of, any guy can go off any night. And that limits you offensively, obviously, with, they're shooting it so poorly, ETSU is. But it also can be an advantage when teams can't hone in on one guy.
Yeah, one last thing. If you had to pick an out-of-conference play coach of the year, could you not talk yourself into giving Brooks Savage a vote? I feel like
tough
he's done
situation.
more with less than any other coach in the league. And they're sitting there so quietly at 8-5. And it's not like they've been playing cupcakes. I mean, they've been playing decent teams, and they're 8-5 right now. So he's done a great job over there.
Both in season and out of season. Like I said, getting a 6-point per game guy in Ebi Asamoah, who's turned into being a 15-point a game guy, finding, I guess, winning. I would assume Kwamari Peterson had suitors if he was on the national champion in JUCO. Mm-hmm. Getting him on campus, keeping Jaden Seymour, Jaden Parker, their big man. He looks like a guy that knows his role and can play some. Has great size and length. But yeah, I'm high on them. Don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it would not surprise me at all if they're a team that knocks off some of those top dogs or even makes a run in Nashville just off some, somebody getting hot. That's all it takes a lot of times. And they've got the defense to compete. Mm-hmm. Then we'll go here. Got to talk about Furman. And everyone loves to hate on Furman, myself included at times. Furman, you would think the way their fans act sometimes, you would think they are like Gonzaga of mid-major basketball. Gonzaga and WCC, you would think Furman has done that in the Southern Conference. But they did take a loss the other night to Anderson, South Carolina, a D2 program who is not particularly the best D2 program. There's no way of sugarcoating it, really. But in saying that, I think we're freaking out. And a lot of people are just, hate Furman and are enjoying they lost. They didn't have Marcus Foster and JP McGee's. There's,
what's that,
people
40
tweet
points
the next
game?
day about it, even just because it is Furman, and I understand it, but it's a bit ridiculous to me because they're missing 40 points a game, 10 assists per game in Pegues and Foster. They're missing the guys. And people don't realize, one argument I've seen is, well, Furman has guys, is full of guys that would be, in the starting five for Anderson. I don't care. You don't take guys that are going to, that's just not how things work. This isn't pickup basketball. This isn't talent. The team is built around these players. It's impossible to ask players, and that's why Furman struggled so much. They've been missing. It's impossible to ask them to keep switching their role. Garrett Hean with a fully healthy team. Garrett Hean, you just need to rebound, pass the ball, take some open shots. But we're missing our two best players. We need you to take 14 shots and get to the line 11 times, like he did. Probably career highs for him. I don't think people realize, and maybe that's a little bit of not playing basketball in your life that you don't realize that sometimes, but I don't think people realize that that's not easy. And I'm still not saying they should have won the game, but a guy being asked to do way more than he's been asked to do the whole year in a couple days notice is way hard. Think Chattanooga last year, just like we were talking about, losing Jake Stevens out of nowhere. Those are good. They still had good players, but your identity changing, that's why they struggled so much throughout conference play and continually got a little bit better. And then Stevens came back, obviously, but that's why they struggled because they spent the whole offseason, the whole preseason. This is what we're doing. These are the guys this year. You guys are going to earn minutes, being complimentary players. And then you switch that up in a moment's notice and expect them because they have talent to be good. And in Furman's case, and that's just not how basketball works, especially at the college level.
Yeah, that loss, this is so off topic, but it gives me hope for VMI that they'll get a D1 win because not only are you down Pegues and Foster, who are your guys, right? But you come out and shoot 2 for 20 from 3. So when you combine being down 40 points every night and then you shoot 10% from 3, you're gonna get caught one way or another. So I'm not panicking on Furman like a lot of people are because so many things had to line up like that for them to lose that game. And there's no question that they're a better team than Anderson. If they play 10 times, they're going to beat Anderson 9 of them, maybe 10 of them. But things just happen in college basketball where you get caught. Like, that's why March Madness is so great. If you're off on a night, you're going to lose. So I'm not panicking over Furman. I still think they're going to be one of the powerhouses in the SoCon, but it's just an unfortunate loss for them.
Exactly. And I saw someone else say something about like this is a Division II program. The difference, Furman. All right, Furman with no Pegues or Marcus Foster, if that's what they came into this year, would be in the bottom half of the SoCon.
Right.
And the difference between D2 and the bottom of mid-major leagues is still significant, but it's not what you think it is. And those guys are, one of Furman's starters, PJ Smith, is a D2 player from last year. Like, we gotta realize that there's still good hoops there, and there's still a difference, especially athletically. But any given night, especially in a night with a team who's basically lost out there. I mean, they don't know what they're doing. And obviously they shot it horribly, turned it over, got out rebounded. Yes, all that happens. But we got to realize that we can be reasonable still when reacting to, and because it's not just people who don't like Furman. Furman fans are also being, that way. And that's just something that maybe it bothers me more than it should, but I hate when people are unreasonable with takes. Like, obviously this non-conference hasn't gone the way they would hope, but the cards have not fallen in their favor. Like, they've had guys hurt all the time, freak games like Tulane, you come back and then you somehow foul a guy with 0.3 seconds left on a play. You're just supposed to put your hands, like, just stuff like that. And I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not worried about Furman. I'm worried about their health if they can't be healthy, but if they're healthy at this current moment, I have no worries about them. Ultimately, I still think they can win the SoCon and win, 3 or 4 games in Asheville if they need to. So now we've got conference play starting up, which is super exciting. Yes.
Thank God.
Going to be a really fun year. SoCon's going to be fun. Just good teams all around. And I think Wofford and ETSU playing as well as they have throughout non-conference really gets me excited because I don't think it's going to be that big gap between those top 5 and lower. I think there's still going to be a gap. I don't think VMI, the Citadel, or the Mercer are going to be able to do a ton. But I think those top 7, there's going to be, every night. It's going to be battles. So we're going to do picks first night. And I think we're going to keep track of these. We're going to get records here of the picks we do. I like that. Let's throughout the year, let's do some records here. So first and foremost, let's go Sanford Chat. There's really 2 premier matchups. Chattanooga at Sanford is the first one we'll talk about here, or pick / reason our picks. Who are you taking and why?
Yeah, I'm going Sanford in one of the highest scoring basketball games you've ever seen in your life. Neither of these teams are stout defensively, but there's some interesting matchups in this game where you've got Jermaine Marshall and Achor going up against Alexis and Zedek. How much do you trust this Chattanooga defense to stop Sanford from just running up and down? And if Bucky McMillan keeps rotating 11 guys, I mean, they're just gonna keep running. And then, the backcourts, you've got a high-scoring duo in Huff and Bonham being guarded by Rylan Jones and Dallas Graziani. I mean, I wonder what the average height on those 4 guys is, but it's going to be a high-scoring up-and-down game. I'm going Sanford. They're on the winning streak. Chat is still trying to figure out who they are. So then going to Auburn and then starting the season on the road at Sanford is not a good recipe, so I'm going Sanford.
And unfortunately, I'm going to agree with you. I think I'm going to take Sanford. I think the difference in this one is that it's at Sanford, in my opinion. I think they're 2 similar programs right now, and just that they're still trying to find their identity a little bit, even though I say that Sanford's like 11-2, but they've played like, I think I saw their KenPom out of conference schedule rating was like 351 or something. That's like, there's not very many more teams in D1 than that. I don't know the exact number, but it's less than 15 or something. Yeah, there's not.
I think it is.
There's not many more schedules worse than what they've played so far. But I think I'm going to take them because of Chattanooga coming off a big loss, and they also kind of struggled going into the break. I do like for Chattanooga, I like that they're playing against Graziani and Jones in the backcourt. I think similar sized guards for Huff and Bonham is barbecue chicken. Like I think they're going to get theirs probably. But I do probably like the consistency more for Sanford, and I think Sanford's home court advantage, especially coming off a fun year last year. I think they're going to have a really, really good crowd there. So number 2, we got UNCG Furman. That's going to be at UNCG. What do you got for that one?
This is a tough one to pick right now because you have so many question marks going into this one. MBJ has missed a lot of time going into it, and then Big East and Foster, are they going to play? I'm going to operate under the assumption that, all these teams operated their resting guys for them to be ready for SoCon play. So I'm going to say everybody's playing, and I'm going to pick Furman on the road in this one. You get your hopefully you get your 40 points a game back from Pegues and Foster. But UNCG outside of Brown Jones, do they have the physicality to match up with all of Furman's bigs? Huey and Heen and Alex Williams and Vanderwall, like all these guys, do they have the size to be physical with Furman? And I would say Greensboro if Pegues and Foster are out, but I'm going to assume everyone's healthy, so I'm going to go Furman on the road.
I'll go UNCG, and the only reason I say that is because I don't know what either team is UNCG going to have MBJ? I have no clue. Is Furman going to have Pegues or Foster? I also have no clue. So I think the other guys, I probably believe in UNCG's consistency a little more, like we've talked before, and I think I'm going to take them. So we've also got Western Carolina at the Citadel. Do we even need to talk about this?
Well, apparently we do. ESPN Analytics said Citadel has a 55% chance to win.
Yeah,
but I'm going Western Carolina.
Western Carolina points if it's anywhere under 8.
If they're dogs, hammer it.
Oh my goodness, yes. I might put my entire savings on it.
I'm taking Western Carolina.
Yeah, I think we're both taking them.
Too.
And because we were both so confident, they will now go and lose at the Citadel. VMI at Wofford, another one. I feel pretty confidently that Wofford's winning that one, especially with VMI on the road.
Yeah, I'm going with Wofford. VMI is barely a D1 team.
Yep, and then wow, that's a little rough. ETSU Mercer at ETSU. I'm taking ETSU, and maybe you noticed I like ETSU right now. I like how they're playing. I've been a anti-Mercer all year. I really just don't love how they're built. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going ETSU too. What's sad is we've kind of started talking about Mercer as not on the level with VMI, but you've got a debate now like Mercer and Citadel. So that's gonna be fun when they play. But Mercer is sadly down there with those.
Yeah, they've shown nothing to make us feel otherwise. I'd say I hate to be too negative about them, but coming off a kind of sad year last year, then starting this year losing to a D2 Clark Atlanta, who, let me say, we might have overreacted about that. I saw Clark Atlanta was like a top 25 team at D2, which is pretty significant. So they're still a good team, but regardless,
I'm going ETSU at home.
Yeah, regardless.
So we've only differed on one pick, so whoever gets that game right will be winning the week.
And it's maybe partially why I picked there, because I just wanted to be different.
Just for some kind of competition.
I couldn't make a decision on that. I can't make a decision on that game because you don't know who's going to be there. So
right.
All right. We'll see you guys next week after hopefully a great start to conference play. Mm-hmm. I'm super excited. I hope everyone listening is excited and enjoyed this episode. We're going to try to keep coming up with creative ideas throughout the year and, making this more interactive. Hopefully we can get a graphic out there, see what's in my, design bag here about our starting fives.
If y'all have any ideas for segments, tweet at us. If you got anything creative, let us know.
Do whatever. So YouTube, like, subscribe, Spotify, rate us, follow us, all that good stuff. Our podcast, same thing. And we'll see you guys in the next one.